My name is Kyle Whipham. I'm 36. Originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and currently I'm homeless in Miami. And I just got off of fentanyl 43 days ago. And currently I'm taking Subutex, and that's to curb the withdrawal symptoms from fentanyl, which I was using off and on for like 12 years. So I'm just recently trying to, come to terms with myself and all the troubles I went through, my addiction, and people that I hurt. And I just made the choice one day. It was September 28th of this year, and I just threw all my stuff in the river, and I said, I'm done using, and I want to be able to enjoy my life again and eat healthy foods and, meet girls and continue my life without having to go out and get my fentanyl every day, which cost me around $80, and it was a bad addiction. And that's why I'm still out here on the street, because it's pretty much the only thing that I know is to go out and hustle and take care of myself and feed myself and use the resources that are available to me. And currently living with my friend in a tent, and I'm trying to help him out and get him clean. It's been kind of hard, but living with somebody that's still in active addiction, but it comes basically with homelessness too. And all my other friends out here, I understand what they're going through, and the fear of withdrawal or getting arrested and withdrawing in jail, or not being able to get your fix, or if the dealer's not out, what you're going to do, and that fear is the main thing that drives users to continue their addiction and continue getting their money to go out to get their drugs.
Do you feel at risk of a relapse being so close to it?
People ask me that all the time, and I'm around it. I've been around it for the past 10 years, and it doesn't bother me. And I don't crave it because I made the choice on my own to quit, and I really don't want to go back to that. Having to wake up and literally before I did anything in the morning, I would use, fentanyl. And so I don't want to go back to that. And everybody that I used to use with, that I still hang around, that's the main thing they always say to me. Oh, I'm sorry for doing that in front of you. I don't, I know you're clean, but here, I don't want to do it around you. I'm saying, it's fine, you can do it. I'm used to it. I'm used to the smell. I know like everything about it, I've been around IV drug users. It doesn't bother me at all, and it doesn't tempt me to relapse. To be honest with you, I was shoplifting and panhandling to get my drugs every day, and I just got sick and tired of it. Mornings I couldn't wake up. I couldn't even afford $1 coffee at McDonald's, and I'd be sick and having to hustle my way onto the train and transit security, and they asked me, how come you don't even have $2.25 to get on the train? And I'm all the way at Dadeland South, or Douglas Road, and I'm trying to get to Overtown to get my drugs, and I can't because I only have $20, and I can't break the 20 to get on the train because I need the $20, because I can't come short, because a week ago I came $2 short to the drug man and he was bitching. So I kind of had like a spiritual awakening, and I You know, I pray every day, and I ask God, like, why am I using every day? Why am I doing this to myself? It's just insanity. And banging my head against the wall every day, $80, $60, whatever it is, to get my fentanyl. And I just got sick of it, and I just had woken up that day. It was hot again. I was broke. I had one bag left. I did it, and then I said, "This is enough. I'm just gonna go try to detox." And what's the worst that's gonna happen is that I'm gonna end up my habit's gonna either go down or I'm not gonna use. Either way, it's a win-win if I try to go get clean for a few days, because the inevitable would have happened. I would have either got arrested, I would have ended up dead, or wherever else. Who knows? And I had prayed that morning. I said, you know what? I don't even want to go steal any more laundry detergent or batteries to go sell for drugs. I said, I'm done doing this. I just threw everything in the water, and I said, I'm going to go into Jackson Hospital and try to get clean. And so I went to IDEA, which is the needle exchange program through University of Miami. I went there, and they had gotten me hooked up with the Banyan Detox program, and I went, and it was rough. If nobody's been through heroin withdrawal or fentanyl withdrawal, you have to wait 3 days to take the withdrawal medication, or else you can get violently sick, throwing up. So I was, vomiting across the room. Like, I went through it, and about around the 4th or 5th day, I was starting to eat 3 meals a day and drink a lot more water, orange juice, to try to regain all those vitamins and stuff that I lost, through my addiction. It was my choice, but I had prayed about it, and I just would thank, my higher power that I was able to make that decision on my own. I was raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I briefly lived in Atlanta when I was a kid also. So I was born in Fort Lauderdale. I lived in Atlanta until I was about 14. And then we moved back to Fort Lauderdale. And 14 to about 23, I was in Fort Lauderdale. I went to Cardinal Gibbons High School, which is a Catholic high school in Fort Lauderdale. That school is known for partying, heavy partying, rich kids. I had a GPA of 3.7. I think I scored 1100 on my SAT. I didn't know if I wanted to go to college or if I wanted to travel and kind of just take it, day by day. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 18, and I just kind of went along with what my friends were doing, to be honest. And what I should have done, and what I recommend to other people that are 17 or 18, take a year off, either work part-time or full-time, whatever makes you happy. But just see how things work out in that year or half year before you want to go to college or something. And just because then you might find out that you have some other hobby that you like, because you don't want to go to work and not like what you do. I applied to FAU, and I went to FAU for a year. I took like business classes and Spanish classes, and I took American government. I took meteorology. Basically all things I was interested in. I'm really interested in weather. I grew up surfing. That was a big part of my childhood. My uncle was a pro windsurfer. He got me basically into wakeboarding and skateboarding and surfing. And I was on my high school surf team, and I was on the FAU surf team for that first year that I went to college. And we would go up to New Smyrna Beach or Daytona Beach and surfing contests all the time. And that's where I started smoking a lot of pot, and that's where my addiction started. Smoking a lot of weed, having a lot of drugs, cocaine and weed on me all times, and just the whole atmosphere and the party scene that went with it. Girls and traveling.
How old were you at this time?
About 18 or 19. Yeah, around 19 I started using heavy pot, cocaine, alcohol. That's a big one. I went to FAU for a year. I still had a girlfriend that was in high school, and we ended up breaking up, and I ended up getting deeper into my addiction because of that, I think. And I started staying up for 2 or 3 days at a time, doing cocaine, partying. At this time in my life, my father and mother weren't, they're still together, but they weren't really getting along. And so that had a lot of things to do with it. My dad, he was traveling a lot when I was a kid, and even into when I started using. He would travel a lot. I would go visit my dad in Puerto Rico and other places, in Europe, in London, and basically with all that going on and the breakup and my family home situation and my living situation, I ended up hanging around the wrong crowd in Fort Lauderdale. I got into doing Oxycontin and blues, oxycodone, and that started my whole opioid addiction at 19. And I was doctor shopping with some other people, and we were getting tons of pills weekly, and that just totally opened up the door for me into my opiate addiction. And that's when I realized that some mornings you wake up, you had to do it immediately as soon as you woke up. Doing the pills, the Oxycontin, the Percocets, whatever it was that had the opiates in it, so I could go out and function. By using, I ruined tons of relationships at that age, in my early 20s. I started stealing, and I'm not proud of it. I started taking things, and I was still working, but to support my addiction, I had to go out and steal. And I do regret doing it and pawning items, but it all comes with that addiction.
Can you explain what doctor shopping is?
Sure. So, doctor shopping in Fort Lauderdale in the early 2000s, middle 2000s, it was there was basically a bunch of pain clinics everywhere. You would see them on billboards, you would see it going down the street. Like, you basically go to the doctor and they do an MRI of, say, your knee, and they tell you, oh yeah, you got torn ligaments or whatever, and the bone spurs, they make it up, and basically you pay them like $250, $500, whatever it is, and then they give you a prescription for the Oxycontin, and you would get that prescription and then go to the pharmacy and get your pills. Okay, so doctor shopping is where you go to multiple of those doctors and you get multiple prescriptions and you go to different pharmacies. And this was before Governor Rick Scott introduced the database program, where it would, all pharmacies, goes through the DEA and then to the pharmacies, and it has your whole list of everything that you are prescribed. And now with technology, obviously that you can't doctor shop anymore, but at that time there was no database. You could go to multiple doctors in different counties And basically, so these drug dealers on the streets also got into it where they would sponsor. They would call it sponsor. I'm gonna sponsor you. I'm gonna pay $400 for that. You give me all your pills. I'll give you 10 plus money, whatever. And usually, crack comes with that. Marijuana, whatever else, meth. What these people are doing, I don't know, Molly. But they would give you drugs and a little bit of money, and you would take your prescription and be able to go to different doctors and get multiple pills, which is illegal. But so yeah, that's doctor shopping. But I think in around 2011 or 2010, I'm not sure, they basically came in and cleaned up all the pain clinics, created the database, arrested a bunch of doctors. A lot of them went to different countries to get away. And they took all the pain clinics away, basically. The ones that were all quacks. I ended up dropping out of FAU. And pretty much at that point in my life, I wasn't surfing as much. I was withdrawn from people and my family and girls and my friends. They all noticed, and I would only hang out with a couple certain people that were using pills. And at that point in my life, that's when I started coming to Overtown.
And did you come here because all the doctor's offices got closed down, so you had to?
Yes, exactly. So the pills that I was doing usually cost like $5 to $10, and they went up in price. It was about 15 to 20 at this time. So coming to Overtown and getting a $10 bag of dope was cheaper than going out and buying a $20 pill. Plus you would get more. So a couple of my friends, we would all pitch in, put gas money. We would drive from Fort Lauderdale, like Davie Boulevard, and drive all the way down here to 17th Street in Miami. And we used to come and get 10 packs, bundles of dope, like $100. And then we would take it back to Fort Lauderdale, and we would have enough for ourselves, plus we would sell some, and that would support the hustle. So that's when I first started coming to Overtown to get cheaper heroin. At that time, there was no fentanyl. It was all real heroin. I had gotten clean. This was my first stint of getting clean at 21. I was 21. I couldn't hold a job. I'd work overnight, valeting, and I just would leave and go get drugs or have somebody come by, and I was just a mess. So I went to a rehab, and I got out at 22, and I didn't use actually for a long time, for about a year. In 2009 and 2010, I didn't use for a year. I did start to drink alcohol, which my parents had always warned me, your grandfather was an alcoholic. You gotta be careful, you're gonna have that gene, your genetics for alcohol. And I started drinking, and I never thought it was ever gonna be a problem, because at 21, 22, you're like, yeah, this is awesome, I can go out to Club Space, or I can go to American Social and go drink, you know what I mean? And hang out and party. So you're at that age, so I started drinking a lot, to be honest with you. And it's just another addiction, and it's a lot of times worse, alcohol. To me, it was better than using the pills because it was readily available, it's cheaper. When I got clean off the pills, I started working again for my uncle who owns a pool business. So I started cleaning pools, and that was like a big thing in my life. Was, it's my trade, I guess, is that I know how to clean pools, but I honestly don't like it, and it sucks, and it's hot, and everything that comes with it. windy, all the leaves go in the pool, and like people complain and all that. So that's what I was doing at 22, and I was drinking and living downtown in Fort Lauderdale, and one day I ended up relapsing on Roxy's on the blues, 30 milligram pills, and when I used, I was drinking.
Were you drunk at the moment?
Yeah, I probably was, and so I ended up using, and then the next day I just used the pills and not alcohol. So I was kind of substituting one for the other, and I ended up relapsing. I was just like staying where I could. I left my friend's apartment in Fort Lauderdale I was living at, and I was kind of like couch surfing, and I ended up going out to bars. Still, I was drinking and still taking pills off and on. I was at 23. I was really messy, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And I still was trying to, at least trying to make it to the beach once a week, to go surf if there's waves. And I was playing pool one night because I like to shoot pool too. And I had met a friend, and we started hanging out, and he was he owned a window cleaning business and in Arizona. So we ended up, he asked me, hey, you want to come out to Phoenix and maybe San Diego with me, and we can try to open up a California business. He's like, I own a business in Phoenix. So I'm like, yeah, why not? I'll go out there and check it out. So me and my friend, we went out to his house in Phoenix, and that's when I started working for him. I helped manage his window cleaning business, and I would go around and bid businesses and bid houses in Phoenix for the window cleaning, and I was making really good money. I was only drinking. At that time, I had gotten off the pills, so I feel like it kind of, I like to travel, and I had traveled a bunch through my surfing, going to Puerto Rico and Costa Rica and stuff, so I felt like getting out of Fort Lauderdale at that age was good for me, because I was stuck in some sort of rut where I still had my high school friends, but I was making these other friends, and like I was using, and like it was a mess, and like I had taken a surfboard from my best friend, and we didn't become best friends anymore, and it was just a rough time in my life, and I know, like I said, I thank God every day that I'm still here. And when I was out there, I really discovered myself, take care of myself. I learned how to do everything on my own, go shopping, grocery shopping, all the things that makes you become a man. And that's what I was doing. I was saving money. I ended up hanging out with the wrong crowd in Phoenix, and I ended up using heroin again. And he didn't know, my friend at the time, he didn't know, but I was still working for him and making money, but I was using. So anyways, him and his wife, they were traveling, and they were in Hawaii at the time, and he was sending me pictures, and he's like, oh, how's everything, did you write the checks out for Friday? I was like, yeah, everything's done. Wrote the checks out, bidded this, did that. And so basically, as long as he was happy and he could log into our customer factor website and he could check it and everything was cool, I'd be paid and there's no problems. And I was still using. He's sending me pictures from Hawaii. He's like, man, you should, take a week off or whatever and come to Hawaii, And I'm like, yeah. I was like, never been. And I've always dreamed about going to Hawaii, like that's surfing capital, like, you know what I mean? So I was in Phoenix, and I was still using heroin at that time, and I ended up going cold turkey and getting on a flight to Hawaii. And basically I went out there and I had detox the first 2 days that I was there in a hotel room. and I ended up getting clean. But it was almost like an enlightenment. Like, oh, I'm in Hawaii. Like almost like the fear of withdrawing like went away. I guess, you know, I just, since I was in a new place and like I'd always want to go there, it just kind of like I overcame the fear and like the physical withdrawal symptoms. So when I was out there, I just, you know, we went out a couple times, we partied and drank, but you know, so I was out there for about a week, and then he was going to fly back to Phoenix, take care of the business, and I ended up going to a hostel, and I stayed there I was in Hawaii for like a year and a half. I was working, I was cleaning pools at the Sheraton, Waikiki. Basically, I was like living the dream. Like, I was staying in a hostel, but it was like $15 a night or something crazy cheap. And yeah, I ended up staying out there, and that was in 2012, and that's when I first became homeless. I got back into the wrong crowd, and I ended up going out and getting some heroin, which was double the price in Hawaii. And yeah, I ended up using again. And when I wasn't able to pay my rent, I basically just packed whatever I could in my backpack. Like the first time I ever slept outside, you know, like homelessness, and just went out and slept near the beach. I mean, I enjoyed myself out there, and I really learned like to use my resources and go to homeless shelters or places that feed you. But deep in my mind the whole time, I still had like, you know, my faith and my higher power telling me like, Kyle, just keep pushing through, like, you know, things will get better, you know. But I mean, like, I couldn't really complain. Like, I was homeless, like, in Hawaii. Like, it was so cool. Like, I did have a tent briefly, and I was sleeping in a friend's van a couple nights, and, you know, we took mushrooms and I had fun. Like, it's a really cool place. And but, you know, addiction, man, addiction is a mofo. It really is, because it just, even you could be in church and it'll just pop in your brain, oh, I want to use. And you're going to go out and you're going to leave and you're going to go take a swig of vodka or whatever your vice is, you know, it's a really hard thing to overcome. Basically, anyway, I would snort it, I would smoke it, I injected it a couple times when I was in Hawaii. And when I would relapse, I wouldn't immediately use a needle. If I was using needles at the time, I would snort just a little bit of it, because if you use a needle right away, first time, you might overdose and die, especially if you're by yourself or if you're with a friend or somebody that's going to rob you and take your stuff when you overdose and not help you out. I would snort a little bit of it to test it, and then if it wasn't too strong, or if it wasn't you know, fentanyl or whatever, I would mix it up, like half a bag, and pull it up through the syringe, and I would tie off, and I would find a vein, and I would shoot up, but it wouldn't be a lot.
Was fentanyl around at that time already, or was that later?
Fentanyl came out in like 2015 or 2016, but no, at that time there wasn't. I was using black tar heroin or powder. So when I was in Fort Lauderdale at 23, I learned from a friend, you know, how to mix up and shoot up and everything. Once you do it one time, like, you pretty much know how to do it. Or you have a friend, you know, shoot up for you, like, hey, you know, if you're scared of needles or whatever. But yeah, it got to the point where basically anything that could be injectable, I tried at least once. I've injected meth, I've injected cocaine, I've injected anything that you can mix up, Molly, ecstasy, injected all that stuff before. But just as experimental, I didn't really get into, a heavy meth or heavy Molly using, but it was just mainly heroin. And sometimes I mix a little cocaine in it to stay awake. And the fear of withdrawing or overdosing that's a big thing. Like when I first started using these, and I would see people overdose, and I've heard of deaths. Kids I went to high school with are dead. Like, that was a big fear of mine. So I never really did big shots of it. And I ended up overdosing. My first time was here in Miami. It was the first time I overdosed at like 29.
So how did you get from Hawaii back to Miami?
I had a friend in Colorado, and she wanted me to come out there, and so I left Hawaii because basically I was homeless. I couldn't support myself. I went to Colorado, was out there for about 2 years, and I snowboarded, and I was learned to cook at a bowling alley, and that's where I was working. In Colorado, I ended up leaving and coming back to Fort Lauderdale because really I hadn't been home but one time. From 23 to 30, I had only been back to Fort Lauderdale one time.
Did your family know what was going on with you the whole time?
No.
Did they know about your addiction?
Yeah, they knew about my addiction because I had told you I went to rehab once at 21, and I fessed up to them and told them everything. They knew I was using. Basically, they could tell when I was using or not, as their son. So yeah, I came back home at like 29 or 30, back to Fort Lauderdale, and I started working for my uncle again and cleaning pools. And a lot of the times, I would go out and I would have to drink to one night, just to release, feel like the pressure of work and everything, I want to drink. So I'd go out and drink, and then, like you said before, you had asked me, were you drunk when you relapsed? Yes. So I ended up relapsing again. And I started using, and I took a bus down here to Overtown, and that's when I became homeless in Miami. And all my friends that I had met out here, at that time, in 2017, a lot of the friends I had hung out with out here are either dead or they moved back home, to maybe Philadelphia or New Jersey, or or they got clean. But a lot of them died, to be honest with you. There's a lot of overdoses. I have a couple of friends that are still out here from when I first came down here, but that's it. A lot has changed. They cleaned up the streets a lot too, under the bridges, overpasses. The homelessness situation in Miami has really done a 180, because there used to be a lot of homeless, and they really cleaned it up under the bridges and everything, from what I've seen. And
still seems to be a problem, though.
Yeah, it's still a problem. I mean,
just comparatively,
Miami used to be the cocaine capital. There's drugs here, there's cheap drugs, there's drug routes to the Caribbean. So that's a big thing too, is that there's plentiful amounts and there's money to be made. And when you combine all that, users and people with money, and it just, you know what I mean? It all funnels and there's money. So anyways, if it's around, at that time I was going to do it. I was going to party it. Fentanyl came out then, and I started using that. And it's a stronger form of heroin. But the first time I overdosed, yes, it was on fentanyl, and I didn't even inject it. I snorted it, and I ended up pool of sweat, and somebody had Narcan me. I didn't even know who, some girl. And I woke up and just said, I need to do some more. And I went and got some more, like that. I didn't even care. Just the carelessness and the fuck it. I just didn't care. And I just wanted to get high. I'd gone through like a string of overdoses, and ended up still using fentanyl, and it went from like using 1 or 2 bags a day to about 6 or 7, which cost $60, $70, and I ended up in an active addiction, using again, and I tried to get clean off and on, jail stints, and it just, made me realize, like, I got to do something about this, or else I'm gonna either end up dead or in jail for a long time for stealing or doing something. And I had, met some friends out here in the street. At one point, I had a girlfriend, I had an apartment, but I ended up relapsing. And a lot of times it had to do with the alcohol, man, because when you're blackout drunk, you do a lot of things like you don't know what you did, and the next morning you wake up, you're like, did I really do that? Did I really say that? So I was, using out here, and unfortunately, at one point I was on probation, and I had gotten arrested, and it was a big mess because I was on probation and pre-trial, and then I had gotten arrested in Broward. I did about 30 days. I was in jail, and one day they came in and they called my name. I was like, yeah, what's up? So I go to the phone. They're like, oh, do you know David Witham? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, he passed away. It was my dad. So I'm like, what? Like, so I'm in jail. My dad died. My family's up. I'm like, what happened? So my dad ended up committing suicide, and it was a really bad time in my life, and made me when I got out, I ended up using because of it, and it was really traumatic for my family and people around me, so, but me personally, like, I overcame it, like, you go through the grief process, whatever it is, anger, denial, whatever, you go through that whole process to overcome it, and that's when I really became more spiritual and found my God and prayed and read the Bible, and just to overcome that, man, because it was a bit hard time in my life losing my father, because he was like, like, we were friends, like, we traveled and partied, and like my dad, we would go out to the bar some nights. He wasn't an alcoholic, but he would drink, but he was smart. My dad was a smart guy, and it was unfortunate that he passed away. He had like an affair going on through my mother and another woman, and I think it was just all too much. He couldn't take it anymore financially, and the stress of lying for years got to him. But I kind of knew it was coming. I hate to say that, but my dad was real stressed out. I knew he had a gun, a 38, and basically, like, he lived with what he dealt with,
Are you close with your family now?
Yeah, I'm still close. I have my 2 sisters, so I'm a middle child. I have an older sister. She lives in Fort Lauderdale. She just had a kid. So now I'm an uncle. And my little sister lives in Cocoa Beach, and she's doing well up there. She's like a lawyer, and so she just got married. So she's living her own life. And my mother, after my dad passed away, my mom moved out. We got rid of the house, and she ended up getting her own condo. And her birthday was just last week. I sent her a card. So I'm still close with my family, but not as close as I'd like to be. But like I said, I've only been clean for 43 days. So, life comes at you when you least expect it, you know what I mean? And all these things, especially when you get clean, and your priorities change from getting drugs to hanging out with your family and friends again, there's that transition point that you got to overcome, or maybe go to NA or AA meetings. That helps, or finding others that have gone through things that you've gone through. You know what I mean? And that's the whole support network that helps a lot in recovery. Well, right now I'm trying not to relapse. That's my main thing, is that I don't want to use again, because I've told you these stories about me relapsing. A lot of times it was because I was drunk. So as long as I don't drink and use fentanyl, I think I'm gonna be okay. And getting off the streets is a hard one, because really, like, it's kind of all I've known recently in the past. And I don't know if it's like a fear of like me having to pay bills, but I just, like, I'm seeing all this rent go up like thousands of dollars. I'm paying that much, and you're not even there half the time because you're working your ass off to try to pay the rent. A lot of times it doesn't make sense to me.
What do you want to do with your life? Do you know?
To be honest with you, I don't really know yet.
Like, what would your dream life be?
My dream
If
life,
you could do anything.
If I could do anything, I would probably go to like Costa Rica or like someplace like that, and try to like live like on like a cool surf break, and have like a bed and breakfast, have like some cooking, like, you know what I'm saying, and like own like kind of not a resort, but just like a little bed and breakfast or something. That'd be cool, but like,
Do you want a family?
I'm not sure yet, to be honest with you. And like, I've always wanted a son or daughter, it doesn't matter, but like, I'm 36, and yeah, I still want a kid, and family maybe one day. I really don't know. I still take it day by day. A lot's happened, in the past few years for me. But I feel like I just know that every time that I've gotten clean, like, good things happen. And if you just kind of continue with that, and I mean, getting I wasn't happy when I was in an apartment, to be honest. I mean, like, being outside like sucks. Like, we just had like half of our shit thrown away, half of our stuff thrown away, and we, like, clothes, everything. Like, it's hard to be homeless a lot of the times. But then again, it's hard to live inside, and like I don't know. And like, I've gone through depression and anxiety because of being homeless, and because of using and relapsing and stuff. So like, I'm not gonna say I'm all there, but like, I go through stints of depression, and when I'm sleeping in the tent, laying in the tent some nights, like, I'm like, why am I homeless? But then it's like, I feel like, I don't know, if I pray about it, and I put all my trust in God, and I can overcome those anxieties and depression phases, you know what I mean? And really feel closer to my friends, and like, a lot of the times, like, I tell my friends, like, look, you can use it in front of me, man. It doesn't bother me. Do your thing, but think about getting clean. Like, think about how much money you would save, or what else we could do. Like, we could go down to the Keys one weekend. Like, let's hang out, let's do something. Not just every day do the same thing, because that's what I did, you know what I mean? And I guess that's why I'm still homeless, and you gotta ask me that question, is that really, like, The only friends that I have close are my other homeless friends. For now. And that's where I'm at.
How are you making money these days?
If I'm hungry, I'll go in a store and eat their food. I'll panhandle. I'll ask people to buy me something maybe, or just stuff like that. Like basically any way possible to make money. Like I know I try to live as cheap as possible. Like if I smoke a cigarette, I'll roll my own cigarette. Like yeah. I'm still homeless and I still have to like maintain and feed myself, so basically any ways possible. If I feel any urges to use, like I go pray, or I'll sit there and pray and talk to my higher power, which is God and Jesus, and I'll say, hey, please help me not use today. Please help my friends. If you go to NA or AA meetings, they're the 12th step states to help another addict in your addiction. So a lot of times, like, that's kind of like my going point. Like, I feel like I can help others. And I feel like that being around me and maybe encouraging somebody else to get clean is what helps me stay clean. Even with only 43 days clean, it's like I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, oh, you're gonna be able to have money, you're gonna be able to feed yourself and go buy the phone or the tablet that you want, and be comfortable in your own self, listen to music and being around family, during Christmas time or something. You know what I'm saying? Like being able to present myself better than how I was before, where I was just withdrawn and strung out and tired, and literally I would like fall asleep on the train like this for hours and then just wake up and then be like, oh, I have to go do some more, and then I would just literally nod out, be sedated all day, all night. Like, it's a lot of times it's not fun. And then when you're not in that state, you feel more sick, or you feel like you gotta use. So I think that's what's gonna keep me clean is praying about it and helping others.
Can you talk about some of the experiences that you've had over those years living out here?
Sure. So I've seen a lot of different types of drugs, new drugs that people never even heard about, like coming out. There's like they call it Molly, it's like a bath salt, Flocka. There's like this 2C stuff out now, there's ketamine. So I've seen a lot of really, I guess, like experimental drugs like hit the streets, and like the Molly is like a big one that people are doing now. Some other experiences, so I've seen a lot of craziness on the streets, under the bridges. I've seen people get hit with golf clubs. I've been hit with golf clubs. I've seen people get stabbed. I've seen shootings. I've seen basically a lot of stuff, and like that's the thing, because when there's money to be made or drugs to be sold, there's going to be issues between people, and it's it all comes, it happens. Like, it's not only here, like like if you go down to Homestead or Florida City, there's still all that like going on. Any city you go to, I've noticed that you're going to run into basically the same issues, and with the fentanyl issue. So before the coronavirus, like really, like before that, it was fentanyl was a big issue, right? people were dying, kids were being exposed to it and they would die. Like, police officers would touch it and they would overdose. Like, it was a big issue, and it still is a problem to this day. But like before Corona and not now after coronavirus, like, thank God that coronavirus is over, because that was like weird, like crazy. So at that time, during coronavirus, I went up to Philadelphia. My mother's actually from there, from right outside of Philadelphia, but so she was down here, and I went up there by myself, like not with family, but with like friends. And so during coronavirus, I was basically homeless in Philadelphia, which is like heroin capital, I would say, of the United States. And I was running the streets there. I was stealing and breaking into stores, like craziness. And I've seen a lot of stuff up there that I've never seen down here. Like there's a rent-a-center, like there, when George Floyd got shot, there was a huge riot in Philadelphia, and they burned down the rent-a-center, they burned down stores, they were blowing up ATMs with dynamite to get the cash box, they were chaining up ATMs and driving them down the street. I saw ATMs behind trucks, driving them down the street, like no police officers in the street because they were all downtown trying to, because there was like Sears and Neiman Marcus, and there was hundreds of people in the stores running out with jackets and shoes and everything. Like, so yeah, up there, like, it was, I'd seen some crazy stuff, man, like Molotov cocktails, like people throwing them in pharmacy windows to break it and taking all the drugs, like, yeah.
Did you ever partake in any of that?
Yeah. I had grabbed some cigarettes from some stores, like cartons of cigarettes to sell, batteries. Yeah, we broke into a Foot Locker and took basically all their shoes. And like hundreds of people were going in and out of this place because we cut a hole in the roof and we went down into it and went in there and took all their shoes. Luckily they're insured probably, but everybody, even the security guard that was out front, was like, I wear size 13, like, you can go in there, but, you know, because like there was no police officers. All the police officers were in downtown Philadelphia, and I was like on in Kensington, which is kind of like the beginning of the suburbs, like where the drugs are, and like really it was just like lawlessness for like a week. It was like June 1st through like June 10th of 2020. Right before my birthday, June 12th. And yeah, that was the craziest time.
How long were you there, and then how did you come back to Miami after that?
I had a warrant out for my arrest in Broward and in Dade at that time. So I had gotten arrested in Philadelphia and during coronavirus, and I went to jail. I detoxed in jail. I'd gotten coronavirus like a week before that. Like I was in bad shape because I was injecting drugs and so yeah, basically went to jail up there. They extradited me down here to Florida, back home. That's how I got back down here. And I did about a year and a half in jail, and I ended up getting out and staying clean for a little while, but then I relapsed. And that was the last time that I was clean before this time. Was when I got out of jail. That was October 1st, 2022. I gotten out. So about a year ago. And I've stayed out of jail, thank God. And a lot of experiences that I've gone through this time. Like, I've had a lot of time to think about like stuff in jail and read the Bible and continue relationships with my family. And then so you use all that experiences and knowledge and trust and all that once you come out of jail. And you try to use that to better yourself. I think that's what, a lot of time in incarceration, that's their goal. It's corrections for a reason. And yeah, like you come out and you gotta better yourself sometimes, to become a man, to become an individual in society that helps others, and being able to pay for your food and a drink that you want. You know what I mean? It's simple, a lot of simple things. It's real simple, but we're complicated. You know what I mean? The individual's complicated, but it's a lot more simpler than people think it is. And you just have to stay optimistic in a lot of situations, because if you get down on yourself, you're just going to end up in addiction again, whatever your addiction is. And yeah, you just have to really stay optimistic and pray and help others. Just stay optimistic and keep it simple. And I guess I really can't answer that question because I don't know where I'm gonna be in an hour. But I just hope. I'm definitely gonna be in Miami, but if I'm gonna be homeless or not. Like, we've gone through like 3 tents because of the weather. One night, like, it wasn't even a hurricane, it was just like wind, and it was like funneling. There's like an apartment building, and then there's like the metro mover, and like the wind was blowing so hard, and it was like funneling into like where the tent was, and we were all in the tent, and it literally just shredded apart like a tornado. And the tent shredded. It was raining, and so yeah, we've gone through like 2 or 3 tents too. But like, I'd rather sleep in a tent, at night, especially with the weather, safety. But the city makes us move sometimes, and it gets complicated to where I feel comfortable, where my friends feel comfortable sleeping, because you also have to watch out for others at night. Like, people wait till you go to sleep and they take your bag just to get the dollar or the change that you have. Like, that's it. Like, but I try to keep everything close to me, or locked up, tied. You know what I mean? Not to use, not to relapse, not to get drunk.
Day by day.
Day by day.
All right, Kyle, thank you for talking to me.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.